The blood-red sunset cast long shadows across the barren plains of Wyoming Territory as Caleb Xander crested the hill, the rhythmic canter of his palomino slowing to a hesitant walk. In the distance, what appeared to be a tattered bundle of cloth caught his eye. As he drew closer, the bundle took human form, a woman slumped beside an overturned wagon, her possessions scattered like fallen leaves across the unforgiving earth. It was 1878, and out here in these untamed lands, death was as common as the sagebrush that dotted the landscape. But something about this scene made Caleb's heart quicken. He dismounted, boots kicking up dust as he approached cautiously, one hand resting on the Colt 45 at his hip. "Madam," he called, his voice carrying on the evening breeze. The woman lifted her head slowly, and Caleb felt a chill run through him despite the lingering heat of the day. Her face was smudged with dirt and dried tears, but it was her eyes that stopped him, cold, vacant, hollow, as if the light within had been extinguished. She was breathing, living, but those eyes told a different story. "They took everything," she whispered, her voice cracked from thirst. "Everything." Caleb knelt before her, taking in the overturned wagon, the broken wheels, the emptied trunks. No horses in sight. Robbery, most likely. Common enough in these parts, but the woman's empty gaze suggested she'd lost more than possessions. "What's your name?" he asked gently, offering his canteen. She stared at it as if unsure what to do until he guided it to her lips. After drinking deeply, she murmured, "Rebecca. Rebecca Lawson." "Miss Lawson. Night's coming fast, and these plains aren't kind after dark." He studied her face, noting her beauty beneath the grime and despair. "I've got a camp set up in that grove of cottonwoods yonder. You'll be safe there?" She didn't respond, didn't even seem to hear him. Her gaze drifted back to the horizon as if searching for something lost forever. Caleb touched her shoulder lightly. When she finally looked at him, he saw such profound desolation in those empty eyes that his words came unbidden, straight from his heart. "You'll see morning again, I promise." Something flickered briefly in her expression. Not hope, perhaps, but recognition that someone had thrown her a lifeline. She nodded once, allowing him to help her to her feet. As Caleb lifted her onto his horse, he felt the weight of his promise. He'd seen that look before in the eyes of men who'd lost everything in the war, in women who'd buried too many children, in his own reflection after his family's farm burned to the ground 10 years ago. The emptiness that comes when life has taken more than you believed possible to survive. He'd made it through his darkness. Now he'd help her find her way back to the light. The camp Caleb had set up was modest but practical. A small fire pit surrounded by smooth stones, a canvas tent anchored securely against the wind, and his supplies neatly organized. He helped Rebecca down from the horse, noting how she moved like someone sleepwalking through a nightmare. "Let me tend to Sunny here, and then we'll get you something to eat," he said, leading his palomino to a patch of grass where the horse could graze, secured by a long tether. Rebecca stood where he'd left her, swaying slightly in the evening breeze. Her dress, once a pretty blue calico, was torn and dust-covered. Her dark hair had mostly escaped its pins, hanging limply around her shoulders. Caleb rummaged through his saddlebags, producing jerky, hardtack, and a jar of preserved peaches he'd been saving. "It's not much, but it'll fill your belly," he offered, gesturing for her to sit on a blanket near the fire. She sat mechanically, accepting the food, but making no move to eat until Caleb gently encouraged her. "When did you last have something to eat, Miss Lawson?" Rebecca stared at the jerky in her hand. "Yesterday morning, before they came." "They?" Caleb prompted carefully. 5 men, bandanas over their faces. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "They wanted the wagon, the horses. Everything we had." Caleb noticed her use of we, but didn't press. Instead, He fed small branches into the fire, letting the comfortable task occupy his hands while she continued. They shot Thomas when he tried to stop them. Her words came out matter-of-factly, as if she were reciting something she'd read rather than lived through. My brother. He was taking me to Denver. To start fresh. Caleb's jaw tightened. I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Lawson. She nodded absently, taking a small bite of jerky. They left me alive. Said I wasn't worth the bullet. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. They were right. No, Caleb said firmly, more sharply than he intended. No one gets to decide your worth, especially not men like that. Rebecca looked at him then, really looked at him for the first time. Caleb Xander was not what one might expect of a cowboy. His face was weathered by sun and wind. Yes, but his features were refined high cheekbones, a straight nose, and eyes the color of a summer storm. His light brown hair was longer than was fashionable, tied back with a leather cord. A neatly trimmed beard covered his jaw, and despite the dust of travel, his clothes were well kept. Why are you helping me? She asked. Caleb poked at the fire. Because it's what decent folks do. There aren't many decent folks left in this world, Mr. Xander. Caleb, he corrected. And maybe not. But I aim to be one of them. He handed her the jar of peaches. Have some of these. Sweet things help sometimes, when the world feels bitter. Rebecca accepted the jar, and as she tasted the syrupy fruit, the first genuine emotion crossed her face, a fleeting look of pleasure that vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Where were you heading before you found me? She asked after a while. Whitewater Creek. Got a small spread there. Was in Laramie selling some horses, now heading home. Alone? Caleb nodded. Been that way 5 years now. No family? Lost them in '68. Fire took our farm in Kansas. He said it plainly, without self-pity. Rebuilt myself out here. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to rebuild, she finally admitted, her voice barely audible over the crackling fire. I don't know if I want to. Caleb studied her across the flames. You don't have to know tonight. Tonight, you just need to rest. He offered her the tent, insisting he was comfortable sleeping under the stars, and gave her a clean shirt of his to use as a nightgown. As she disappeared inside the canvas shelter, Caleb settled himself against his saddle, rifle within reach, and stared up at the vast expanse of stars. He wondered what twist of fate had put him on that trail at that precise moment. He wasn't a religious man, not anymore, but sometimes the universe seemed to have its own designs. Sleep came fitfully for Caleb, interrupted by Rebecca's muffled sobs from within the tent. Each time, he nearly rose to comfort her, but held back, understanding that some grief needed privacy to be properly felt. Near dawn, he awoke to find her sitting by the rekindled fire, his too large shirt hanging from her